This is my story of the beginning of my journey to finding a level of freedom that I did not know existed. This is a story of digging my soul out from under my ego. In my 20s, my early 20s, third year of college, I moved to Europe on a 6-month exchange program, and I ended up staying for 11 years. See, I had always wanted to explore the world. I was adventurous, a free spirit, independent. I wanted to have this amazing life. I wanted to have love, career, success, and maybe even be this international woman of mystery. I was young at the time in my 20s, right? I know who I am. I know what I want. Don't tell me what to do. I'm an adult. I'm 20-something. And I did. I had an amazing life. Right out of college, I got married. I moved to Italy, to Lake Como, which is one of the most beautiful places in the world. I would ride around in my Vespa, wind in my hair, sun in my smiling face. I had what you would imagine to be this Renaissance painting of a perfect life. The food, the wine, the culture, the art, the fashion, everything. And despite the difficulty for a woman in Italy to have a career, I made that happen too. So I had it all, picture perfect life on the outside. But on the inside, it was a different story. On the inside, it was like that painting was cracking and peeling. So what was wrong? Everything. Everything was wrong. Everything that mattered. Because as much as I would like to say that I married for love, I didn't. And I made a decision at that time to follow my head instead of my heart. And that decision opened up a flood of judgment, guilt, blame, and shame. I hated myself. And I couldn't admit it. I didn't know it. But I hated myself. And I couldn't admit it. There was too much pride. There was too much ego. I had so much at stake in this life that I really wanted and created. And I kept it up. I kept up this painting, this life, this image. How many of us do that? We keep it up. We don't want anyone to know. Especially, for me, my parents. I could not let my parents know, especially not my dad. He would kill me. Because I could not be the eldest child that went off and made an irrational decision and put other people's lives in the sphere of my mistake. And I was so trying to be in control, but I wasn't. I was completely out of control. There was nothing in my life that I could control, except for one thing. I could control my body. And I became obsessed with skinny. I even convinced myself that skinny meant healthy, and the lower that number on the scale got, the more I felt accomplished, because it was the only thing that I had that showed me that I was actually being successful. You know, we say that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. No, the definition of insanity is living in Italy and never eating pasta. That's insanity, right here, right here. It got so bad that I would weigh my cereal in the morning. 30 grams, that's 1 ounce. I would pick carrots out of soups and salads because they were high carb. It was unbelievable. And because I was eating so much, I had to burn off all those extra calories. So I exercised like crazy. I would run for hours. I would go to the gym and I would do exercise videos at home, sometimes all in the same day. And here's the thing, here's a truth that none of us can escape. Our body knows, and even though I was abusing my body, it knew. Not even a year after I got married, I stopped getting my period. I was 24, and I went into menopause. Because if I had kids, I had to stay. The body knows what the mind won't admit to. And I spent 9 years suppressing what my heart was telling me, suppressing my emotions, ignoring them. No, I had to make sure that this looked perfect. But I was lost, broken, I was afraid. And we stay. Why do we stay? We have good reasons to stay, but sometimes, why do we stay for reasons that are so hurting us? And I'm not just talking about relationships or marriages. We stay in jobs, we stay in careers, we stay in conversations that we'd rather not be in. We don't get that time back, but we stay. And we stay sometimes until we can't stay any longer. And some of us learn those signals sooner. Some take a really long time. For me, and I remember this because it was almost exactly 7 years ago, April 30th, 2011. We were driving along the lake, not to go on a drive that I love so much. We were going to see some friends that had just had their third baby, so we veer up to go to the hospital. And the whole time in the car that we're going there was something inside of me that just something was not sitting right. I was not feeling okay. And it wasn't the usual hangry energy that I would try to run off. This was something else. I couldn't place it. We get there, get into the elevator, go up to the maternity ward floor, and the elevator doors open. And I get hit, I get slammed with that hospital smell. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. There's something about it, and it hit me, and I reeled back, and I took a deep breath, which was the wrong thing to do, because I breathed it all in, and it lit this thing that I had on fire. And I thought, okay, compose yourself. Be okay. You have to be okay. You're going to see they just had a baby. You can't show anybody that you're not feeling okay. So we walk into the room, and I can only describe it as joyous chaos. I mean, there's kids running around, family, balloons, flowers, so much food. We are in Italy. There's food everywhere. It's amazing. Just chaos. And the mom, she is exhausted, but she's radiating love. I mean, it's just coming out of her. She's beautiful. And I'm standing there, and I felt so out of place. I was devoid of it. I didn't know what was going on, but I stayed the appropriate amount of time. And then I excused myself, and I went into the hallway, basically scuttled away. I just couldn't handle it. I didn't know what was wrong. And I go down this hallway. It's eerily empty, huge, and I find a place on the wall, and I just brace myself. And I don't know what's going on, and this feeling is just getting stronger. It's like the wildfires of California raging inside of me, and I don't know what's going on except this screaming in my head. Shame and blame. How could you? You're such a horrible person. It was just going over and over and over again. I just wanted to jump out of the window and sink to the bottom of the lake. I didn't know. And I'm standing there, and I'm just, what is wrong with me? And I look up, and out of nowhere, I don't know where she came from, there's this lady. I don't know if she was old or she had just given birth, but she had her back to me. I don't know. But she was walking so slowly and painfully, and I was looking at her, and I thought, it's like this death march. And I'm looking at her, and all of a sudden, all this screaming in my head just stopped. And I'm looking at myself. I see myself in that death march, and I was so clear. I was finally clear. And then I just lit on fire. I was on fire, but I was frozen. I didn't know what to do, because there was only one decision that I could make. I had to leave. I had to leave this life. I had to leave the marriage. I had to leave everything. And I didn't know how, because I had trapped myself in that painting that I meticulously curated for 9 years. And there was so much at stake. I didn't want to hurt my husband. He wasn't a bad person. He was a great person. My family, our friends, 9 years of relationships, my lifestyle, my lake, my Vespa. God, I would have to leave everything. And then I would have to face people. I was going to get blamed. I was going to be hated. I was going to get yelled at. My dad was definitely going to kill me. I was so afraid, but I made the decision anyway. I had no idea where I was going to go, but I made the decision anyway. And that day, standing in that huge empty hospital corridor, I made one of the most difficult decisions of my life. But I knew that it was the right decision. Because for the first time in a really long time, I made a decision for myself. Not the selfish self, the higher self, the authentic self. And whether you call it that for yourselves, know that that voice inside of you is the voice that knows what's right for you. 7 years ago, I started digging my soul out from under my ego. But I didn't know that at the time. I had no idea what was going on. I had to make it through one day at a time. And I had avoided these difficult conversations for 9 years. We avoid these difficult conversations. We avoid other people's emotions. I don't know if you do this, but I do. I don't want to deal with it. I would rather walk away. Your emotions, my emotions, nope, I don't want it. But that uncomfortable place, those uncomfortable conversations are the ones we really need to have. And for me, one of the most difficult ones was calling my dad and telling him. And I still remember, I still feel it, calling him, and I ground down. I'm ready for this. I'm ready for it. And I call him and I tell him, and I said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And he pauses and doesn't say anything, and I'm ready. And he says, Adapia, come home. I said, you're not happy. Come home. And I was like, what? Hold on, who are you? Who are you? What did you do with my dad? He doesn't want me to be happy, he wants me to be successful. If my dad, the last person in the world that I thought I knew, first of all, because what I thought he was and what he wanted for me, I had no idea. But if he thought that my happiness was important, and I had pushed away my happiness, I had shoved my heart as far back away from me as I possibly could, then maybe it was important. Maybe happiness is important. What I found when my life fell apart, when that painting of my life lit on fire, I found something I never expected to find. I found a masterpiece under that painting, under the layers of paint. I found my soul. I found the part of me that knows the truth, that never veers from the truth, and that's always been there with me, no matter how much I shoved it away or painted over it. Interestingly, there's this word, an Italian word, that's used to describe when painters paint over their paintings. It's called pentimenti, and it means to repent. And it's a technical term, because under some famous and not so famous paintings are other paintings, these masterpieces that could have been, or mistakes, errors that the painters made, or they had to redo because society at the time thought that their painting was unsavory. Pentimenti, regrets, to repent as we paint over our lives to hide our truth. For me, the past 7 years since leaving have been 7 years of understanding myself, of learning to trust myself, my heart, my soul, to have compassion, because I was carrying shame, I was carrying guilt, and I was carrying self-judgment. I even tried to leave some things out of this speech because I couldn't understand that part of me, how much I had been hiding. And unlike Kirsty's example where she knew her secret, I didn't know. I didn't know because I pushed away for so long the importance of love, self-love, love for others, true love. And it's so important that we love ourselves, that we honor ourselves. That shame came from dishonoring myself. I only have me. And if I can't love myself and honor myself, I can't expect anybody else to do that for me, and I can't give back because it has to come from here. We catch ourselves in cycles of self-judgment, and we think it's other people's judgments, but it's our own. My dad's a great example. I had no idea that he wanted me to be happy. I had all these stories of what I thought he wanted for me, of what other people wanted. But the truth only came out when I had a conversation about it. Now, I wish it didn't have to be based on this trauma that I was going through, but sometimes that's what it takes when we're not listening, when we're not paying attention. And as I've learned to honor myself, to stand in my power, to say no when I mean no, and yes when I mean yes, and do the things that have meaning for me, to stop chasing this picture-perfect life and start listening to my heart. My life feels better. My heart feels full, and I feel good about myself. And as I'm looking out here at everyone in the audience right now, as I see you, I don't see paintings. I see masterpieces. I see you shine, and I honor you. I honor you for where you've been. I honor you for where you are today. And I honor you for the decisions that you're making. Whereas I judged 9 years of my life as one mistake after the other because I got it all wrong. Nothing's a mistake. It's a lesson if we're open to learning it. It's not a mistake. Those judgments are like shackles to our soul. They keep us trapped. So as I honor you today and I see you shining, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here with me today. Thank you.